Rain poured like a curtain over the cracked road as the engines roared to life. 12 men in leather jackets, the Iron Hawks, were gathered outside a rusted diner on the edge of town, their chrome bikes gleaming under the stormlight. They weren't exactly the kind of people you'd approach for help. Tattoos, scars, heavy boots each looked like they had a story best left untold. Then came the sound that cut through the thunder, a child crying. A little boy, no more than 6, stumbled out from behind the diner, his face streaked with rain and tears. He clutched a broken toy truck in his hand. "They broke my toy and hit my mom," he sobbed. The bikers froze. Even the storm seemed to pause. Tank, the biggest of them, a wall of muscle with a beard like iron filings, knelt down. "Who did, kid?" "The men, from the factory," the boy sniffled. "They said my mom couldn't work there anymore 'cause she asked for her pay." They laughed. Then they pushed her down. He pointed toward a faint light in the distance, the old plastics factory that had been cutting corners and exploiting workers for months. Everyone in town knew it, but nobody dared to challenge it. Tank's jaw tightened. Around him, the other bikers exchanged looks. "Boss," muttered Razor, his second in command. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" Tank stood up, water dripping from his jacket. "Yeah. I'm thinking we take a little ride." They didn't roar off in anger. They moved with purpose, engines growling low like thunder on the horizon. The boy watched, shivering, from the diner porch as the line of bikes disappeared into the rain. Inside the factory, the foreman and his crew were counting cash, laughter bouncing off metal walls. The door slammed open with a bang. 12 soaked figures stepped in, helmets off, ice cold. "Who's in charge here?" Tank's voice rumbled. The foreman sneered. "What's it to you?" Tank stepped forward, holding up the tiny, broken truck. "You hit a woman and broke her kid's toy. That's what." Laughter erupted again until Tank tossed the truck onto the table. It landed with a clatter, splitting the laughter in half. "You boys like breaking things?" he said quietly. "Let's see how you like fixing them." What followed wasn't chaos, it was justice. Not the kind from a court, but the kind that makes people remember right from wrong. They didn't throw punches, they didn't need to. One look at 12 soaked, furious bikers was enough to send the factory men scrambling to their knees. Tank found the woman in a back office, bruised but standing tall. Her name was Maria, a single mom who'd been trying to feed her son with whatever she could earn. "You're safe now," Tank said softly. "We'll make sure you get what's owed." By morning, every unpaid worker had their wages, and the foreman had retired early. The factory owner got a visit from the county inspector, and an anonymous tip had been made, complete with photos the bikers had found inside. A few days later, the same rumble of engines rolled back into town. The boy was sitting outside the diner again, this time with his mother, both of them smiling for the first time in a long while. Tank got off his bike and handed the boy something small, wrapped in a cloth. The child unwrapped it slowly, his toy truck, perfectly repaired. Its once broken wheels now turned smooth and strong. "You fixed it," he whispered. Tank smiled. "Nah, kid. You fixed us." The boy didn't understand, not fully, but Maria did. She looked at these rough men who the world crossed the street to avoid, and saw the truth: they weren't outlaws. They were broken people who remembered what it felt like to be powerless, and who chose, just this once, to be someone's heroes. As the Hawks rode off into the sunset, the townsfolk watched from their porches, whispering. They weren't sure what had happened at that factory, but one thing was certain: kindness had found its way back into town, on the backs of 12 roaring bikes. Moral: sometimes, humanity doesn't wear a halo or a suit. Sometimes, it wears leather and rides through the rain, but it still knows how to stand up for what's right. The rain had stopped by the time the Iron Hawks reached the edge of town again. The clouds broke apart, letting a pale orange dawn spill over the fields. Steam rose from the wet asphalt as if the earth itself was sighing in relief. Tank slowed his bike, glancing back at his crew. Razor, Bones, Cricket, and the others rode in silence. The night had changed them. No one spoke until they pulled over near the overlook, the spot where the highway curved around a ridge, giving a view of the town below. From up there, you could see the diner, the factory, and the small row of houses that looked softer now in the early light. Razor lit a cigarette, his hands trembling just a little. "Boss," he said quietly, "you ever think we'd be the good guys one day?" Tank chuckled. "Good guys? Nah. We're just men who remember what bad looks like." Bones kicked a pebble off the edge of the hill. "Still feels different, though. Haven't felt this right in a long time." Tank nodded, his eyes on the horizon. "That's 'cause doing right ain't about being clean, it's about doing something when no one else will." They stood there for a while, just breathing, listening to the quiet hum of engines cooling in the dawn. Down in town, Maria opened the small envelope Tank had left behind. Inside was a stack of bills, far more than what she was owed, and a short note written in heavy, blocky handwriting. "For you and your boy. Don't pay us back, just pay it forward. The Hawk." She pressed the note to her chest and whispered a prayer. Her son, Tommy, was busy outside in the yard. He'd built a small ramp out of planks and bricks, and he was racing his fixed toy truck across it, making engine noises with his mouth. He looked up every time a motorcycle passed the road, hoping it was Tank and his crew coming back. "Mom," he called out, "you think they're gonna visit again?" Maria smiled. "Maybe, sweetheart. Maybe they're helping someone else now." A week later, the Iron Hawks found themselves in another small town, this one with a broken-down church and a playground full of rusted swings. Cricket, the youngest of them, noticed a man sitting alone on the steps of a gas station, holding a cardboard sign that read without a word. Tank parked his bike and walked over. He sat down beside the man, pulled a sandwich from his saddlebag, and handed it over. The veteran blinked in surprise. "Why?" he asked softly. Tank shrugged. "Because someone fixed my heart when I didn't think it could be fixed." The man nodded slowly, chewing, tears welling in his eyes. And as the sun dipped behind the hills, the Iron Hawks rode on again, not heroes, not saviors, just men with engines loud enough to drown out the silence of people who had been ignored too long. Weeks turned into months. Word spread like wildfire. In small towns across 3 states, folks started whispering about they'd fix a roof for a widow, deliver food to a struggling family, or quietly settle a bully down with a few well-chosen words and a stare that could freeze fire. They became legends, the kind of outlaws. One evening, Tank parked outside a children's hospital in a nearby city. He'd gotten a letter, crayon scrawled, with misspelled words, from Tommy. "Dear Tank, I told my teacher about you. She says people who help others are heroes. I told her you don't wear capes, you wear jackets. Love." Tommy. Tank smiled, folding the letter carefully into his pocket. He looked up at the hospital windows glowing softly in the twilight and whispered, "Guess we're not done yet."